was a little girl, I had several traumatic instances. By the time I was 6, I had been molested at least 3 or 4 times. I don't really remember for sure. But there was not one instance where my mother believed me, and so it left me really doubting who I was and really what my life was about. And just really struggled with identity, and a lot of rebellion and promiscuity just led me to become pregnant really, really early. I was 15, and was dating someone who was around 23, so there was a big, huge age difference there that kind of just left room for abandonment, because as soon as he found out I was pregnant, I was a liability to him legally. So on my own, I went to my mother and told her of my situation, and as before, she couldn't handle it and kicked me out. So at 15 years old, I was pregnant and I was alone. So out of desperation, I started seeking something. And I went to church with my boyfriend's friends, and I met the Lord. And for once in my life, I knew why I was alive. I was alive because God loved me, and He didn't intend those things to happen to me. And so, in receiving His forgiveness, I was able to forgive my mom, and tried to make good choices. I really loved the Lord. I was born again and Spirit-filled and on fire for God. I wanted to do things so right. I didn't want to mess up anymore. I made a really poor decision, and I wound up marrying my boyfriend at the time in order to try and make things right. Although I knew that he was not a Christian, he didn't believe in Jesus like I did, and he was still smoking pot, selling weed, growing weed, all with my daughter around. And so little by little, my relationship with Jesus got put on the back burner, and I slowly drifted away from God, and everything that I had fell in love with just was not as important as it should be. So I really did start following my husband instead of following Christ, and it led me to the worst decision that I could have ever made. Started smoking crack cocaine with him, and it's like everybody always says, one hit and you're hooked. That was me. And I couldn't put it down as much as I knew that I needed to be a mom to my kids and get rid of all of that junk out of my life. That thing had me like a fish on a hook. And the few years of making really bad choices, one day my kids didn't come home from school. They were taken away from me for good, unless I could get better. And they gave me a year to do it. I didn't do it. And so, with that label, the crack mom who lost her kids to foster care, I just hit the streets, and any drug dealer I could find I hooked up with, and literally I went from state to state chasing that high in order to stay numb, to avoid the reality of what I had chose over my kids. I just added more and more shame to my life, and Satan knew what he was doing, but God knew even more. And at 38 years old, I looked in the mirror one day, and I didn't recognize myself. But I wanted to be a woman. I wanted to be a mother. It had been 10 years, and my oldest daughter was getting ready to turn 18, and I knew that she was going to want to contact me. So through Facebook we found each other, and that's when I began to call out to God. I said, Lord, if you are the faithful Jesus that I met so long ago, then you haven't changed. And you can help me. You can help me quit these things and be a good mom. You can help me get well. And I hit my knees and cried out to God day after day. I sought him in the Word, and little by little, he delivered me out of every addiction that had paralyzed me for so long. He set me free. And it was nothing but his love that did that for me. And it's been probably 2 years now, and everything in my life has changed. My dad came home from prison. We were reunited. He did pass away within a year because he was sick. He had cancer. But God allowed me to have him back in my life before I did lose him, and that was the time I'll never forget. I cherish it because I was well. He got to see me healed. He got to see me whole, and knew that with the girls back in my life, I had hope and I was going to stay well. Now it's been, like I said, 2 years, and all three of my daughters and I are back in touch with one another. And my youngest daughter is getting ready to turn in about a week or two. She's coming down to see me for the first time in 10 years. So, without fail, God has redeemed my life, restored everything that was lost, and continually, day after day, is giving me hope, strength, and making my life a witness to just the power of his love. So, I just have to say that, Jennifer, because Jesus loves me, I am second.